you've said some fairly strong things about some of Ronald Reagan's policies. You've also said that he's much farther to the right than the majority of Americans. If he were to be elected president, would it be a dangerous or uncomfortable presidency for the United States?
First, I don't assume that he's going to be nominated, and if he's not nominated, he won't be elected. Therefore, I really haven't anticipated that we would have 4 years of a Reagan administration. I do have some differences with him as to the course of foreign policy, how to handle it. I do have some differences with him in certain specifics in domestic policy, but those are things that I think a man would learn from experience if he held this office, and therefore he might change when he's dealing with reality and not dealing on the political campaign.
Mr. President, let me get back just for a moment to Ronald Reagan. One of the most interesting things I think that has been found by the CBS New York Times polls is a statistic that came up the other day that said if the race were Ford versus Carter, 41% of those who called themselves Ronald Reagan people would defect and vote for Jimmy Carter. It also says that 23% of those who call themselves Ford voters would defect to Carter if Reagan is the nominee. In light of that, aren't you going to have to put Ronald Reagan on the ticket if you're going to have the backing of your party? And you've got to have the solid backing of the Republican Party.
I have said that I would not exclude any Republican that I've looked at or we've heard about that might qualify as being a vice presidential candidate, and that would include Ronald Reagan. Now, he has himself indicated he would not be interested in being vice president, but as far as I'm concerned, I would not exclude him. Now, we'll have to take a look at the two people that the Democratic Party nominates in their July convention in New York City. We'll have to see how the convention turns out in Kansas City, how we can best heal any wounds that the party might have as a result of the many primaries. Of course, the main thing is the person who is going to be nominated for vice president fully qualified to be president in case something should happen to the president.
But are you
now,
really
all of those things have to be put into this formula, and we'll look at the kind of data that you've indicated, but I think it's premature to make any commitment at this time.
But are you seriously saying that the choice of the Democratic convention would really influence the man that you want for your vice president?
It certainly is a factor in the formula. That's been the tradition in conventions over the years in our presidential races. You can't ignore it. Democrats have done it, Republicans have done it, and I suspect it will be a factor, not the controlling factor, but it'll be a factor.
I know this is probably something you can't tell us in some detail. You usually give a list of people that you're interested in. It's been well published. Do you have one favorite yourself in your bosom, as they say in the church, who you would like as your vice president?
I haven't decided on one person, Mr. Herman. I have several that I think fit a very good category of the kind of people, but it's very premature to make any final decision at this point.
But, Mr. President, you have said several times on several occasions that Reagan's statements on Panama, Rhodesia, and so forth are irresponsible. And yet you say all that would be forgotten when he gets into the White House, he would be responsible. Are you saying that Reagan is only making campaign rhetoric now and doesn't truly believe in the things he says? You have also implied there would be guerrilla warfare if Reagan became president and stopped the Panama Canal negotiations.
Sometimes in the heat of a political campaign, statements are made that on cool reflection, candidates wish they hadn't said.
Are you referring to yours or his?
I'm referring to several that have been made by my opponent in recent weeks. And certainly, if a person becomes president, he has to be more judicious, more careful in what he says and how he says it and when he says it. And I think when you get in that Oval Office, Ms. Thomas, it does make you far more responsible than you are when you're out on the political hustings.